ex-president of Ohana Ho'opakele, but whatever, we're here for one reason and one reason only, is to help our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated because of the corruption that goes on in the United States. We are here to make the wrong right. They continue to be here to keep the wrong wrong. And we will prevail. With individuals like us, we give our time, we give our resources to help our brothers and sisters, our fellow men. Tonight we have a special guest here that has come from Honolulu. I'll introduce him right after I say Puli, and we'll go on with the meeting. Please, if you have any questions, the dumbest question is the one that's not asked. So, good, bad, or ugly, you ask the question. Thank you all for being here, and William. Oh, we have a councilwoman with us. Margaret, thank you. Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this facility that we bring our issues to and sit at this table and break bread together. We ask, Father, that You give us guidance and keep us on the path as we travel down this journey to bring our loved ones home and to really continue the Aloha spirit that we all are very familiar with. But we have other entities that takes and tries to destroy this entity, which Aloha means love. We ask, Father, be with us. We beg Thee, and that we may prevail this evening. All these things, Father, we ask in the name of Your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. At this time, my friends, I'd like to introduce Mr. Williamson Chang, our special guest. Aloha. Thank you, Margaret. Find your seat. Thank you. Come here. Yeah. Our president in flat tire, I think. He's going to be here.
Yeah, we want to really thank Professor Williamson Chang, who's been teaching at the Richardson School of Law for many years. And the first time I met him, he was doing a drama with a judge's robe on it. I don't know how many years ago, it was a long time ago. So it was so good to have him offer his services. We're lucky his good friend Danny Lee is his good friend, so whenever we invite him over, he'll come and stay at Danny's house, so he'll not say no because he wants to see Danny. So we get the benefit of Williamson agreeing to come and see his friend Danny. But we're so grateful that he has been helping us, giving us advice on our complaint. Of course, it's not a simple legal thing that we're doing, and so I think when he talks about the complaint, he'll also, I think, put it within the context of what is the legal part of the struggle and what of it is the wider political struggle that cannot be won just by legal means, right? So I think that'll be very helpful for us. So we want to welcome him again to our Ohana Ho'opakele function, and we're so grateful that you agreed to come on such short notice.
Thank you. Ron mentioned a play that I wrote and I put on. It was a one-man play, and I'll just take a minute to tell you about that.
Yeah.
How many of you have seen Judgment at Nuremberg? Judgment at Nuremberg was the depiction of the trial by the Allies after World War II of German judges who enforced the laws of Germany, and did so. They enforced the laws of the Holocaust, they enforced the laws of anti-Jewish laws, laws where you couldn't marry Jews, laws where you couldn't affiliate with Jews. And the point was that in Hawaii one day, the judges are going to have to face the same kind of face the same kind of scrutiny in terms of what are their responsibilities. If they know they're doing wrong, and if they know that this island was never taken over by the United States, if they know that Hawaii is occupied, then they are just as guilty as anyone else. And so what I try to do in my law school teaching is to train the law students to be aware of the fact that you can't just go out there and hide behind the law and say, oh, I didn't know about this. That was the Nuremberg defense. The Nuremberg defense was, oh, I was just doing my job. I'm a good German. And the Nuremberg defense was rejected by the Allies. And we have Polly here today.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Not tired. But why don't we let him speak about the press release that's coming out. But my story was that everyone's involved when it comes to things like the incarceration of our people on the mainland. That's wrong. That's wrong under the Hague Convention. It's wrong under the Geneva Convention. The United States came in and occupies Hawaii. They're doing it illegally, and they're taking our people and violating the Geneva and Hague Conventions by incarcerating them outside of the country in which they belong. And they're incarcerating them basically political acts of resistance. Those who are in jail are with few exceptions, not your murderers, not your rapists, but people who are alienated by the structure of the system. They cannot live in Hawaii the way it is. They cannot live in the kind of values where development and housing and military is the emphasis. And so how do they react? They turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, they turn to things to escape. And they're being prosecuted for basically what are considered medical conditions in other countries. And so they end up in jail, and they end up in these systems where we can't afford to incarcerate them in Hawaii, so we ship them to other states, even states that are part of the United States when we're not part of the United States. And so I think it's very, very important that we work on releasing our pahea from these prisons, and we talked about how to do it, and it's a political strategy. The political strategy is basically that the legislature has enacted a bill saying that in fact it wants a Pu'uhonua, and it wants a Pu'uhonua at Kulani Correctional Facility, and that's its first preference. The governor has the power to choose. And the governor won't choose Kulani Correctional Facility, and so we wanted him to examine that site and tell us why it was not appropriate. And they came back and they just filed a finding of no significant impact, which is basically, oh, we find that there's no significant Hawaiian interest in this. And so we had to go and write a complaint, basically saying that this is wrong. Like a contested case hearing or an environmental impact statement, you've got to tell us the impacts that building a prison out of Kulani Correctional Facility will have on Hawaiians. It will only perpetuate the wrongs. It will be built on Hawaiian lands. It will be destructive of the Hawaiian sense of spirituality. So that we cannot stop the governor, we cannot make him choose Kulani Correctional Facility, and he knows that. But the larger plan is to convince him that the people of Hawaii are behind this, the legislature is behind this, and that it's a no-lose proposition to him. The cost of incarcerating a pahea in Arizona, or even in Kulani Correctional Facility, is far greater than the cost of Pu'uhonua, which is going to rely on forgiveness, spirituality, education, ties to the family, reintegrating the person with the community. That's the way in which we heal these people who have been subject to the criminal justice system. And everybody knows it's much more expensive to operate a prison than a city of refuge or a Pu'uhonua. And sooner or later, it's going to happen. We want it to happen sooner. And we want it because these people have been rotting away in jails on the mainland. They've been suffering. They've been without their families. They have been deprived of the connection with the families that's essential to their rehabilitation. So the larger political strategy here is to put pressure on the governor. The lawsuit that we filed was a suit basically saying, why aren't you going to tell us what the impacts are of building another minimum security prison? Why aren't you going to tell us what this does to Hawaiians? Why aren't you going to address the high percentage of Hawaiians who are in the criminal justice system? Don't you think that there's a relationship that Hawaii was overthrown and that so many of our young people are in trouble with the law? They're not in trouble with the law just because they're troublemakers. They are having troubles living in a world where they don't have a homeland. Their homeland is occupied by the United States. They have no place to practice their religion, their skills, their language. If you were Japanese and you came to Hawaii, you have Japan to go to, where someone is working on the Japanese language, they're speaking Japanese, they're cooking Japanese food. You don't have the task when you move to Hawaii from Japan of having to reinvent Japanese culture. You don't have the task of having to keep it alive. Your homeland is still intact. Hawaiians don't have their homeland intact. And that's why so many of our young people are confused, they're acting out, they're challenging the law, but most of all, they're harming themselves in a way to survive in a hostile environment. So the lawsuit is one piece of the puzzle. It's to push the state to look at Ohana Ho'opakele as a serious player, as a serious partner in the discussions as to how incarceration should take place. There was I believe there was a television portrayal called the Juvie Justice System, and they showed that in Baltimore they're relying on the Maori system of juvenile justice to rehabilitate their people. The Polynesians had a way which was appropriate for living in islands. They had a way in which a city of refuge and forgiveness was a very critical part of living on an island. And so we are learning from Hawaiians more and more. Our water rights are becoming more like Hawaiians. Our system of government, our system of political division of lands, the Ahupu'ale system. All of these things are Hawaiian, and they are sustainable, and they have proven themselves over thousands of years of operation. So one of the plans is to move with this lawsuit and to put pressure on the state to explain why they're not going to use Kulani as a Pu'uhonua. They're obligated under Act 117 to create a Pu'uhonua somewhere. Why not choose the most logical, the most feasible place to begin? Well, they don't trust us, I believe. They don't trust us in administering to our own people. The second part of this puzzle is to get the United States involved in understanding its relationship to Hawaii, that it overthrew the Kingdom of Hawaii, that it annexed the Hawaiian Islands, and that they too are responsible for the high number of Hawaiians who are in prison. And I think Polly is going to speak about the press release and the press conference that we're going to have calling for a Justice Department investigation of the conditions of Hawaiians in the prisons.
Sorry I'm late, Polly. I was supposed to talk about the federal side, but you're wondering why are we doing it? We're just a community organization or concerned citizens like you all are too tonight, but why do we have to do work that governments neglect and responsibilities that they neglect? And we're looking at saying, we probably would not be here if it wasn't for the statistics that the state has, and the feds have put together a study to show situations of Native Hawaiians. Now, they come up with all these stats. That's not our stats, it's their stats. But nobody does nothing about it. So you got this increase of Native Hawaiians incarcerated in prison, and yet we're the fourth in the census of population equal to the Filipino people today. So we as a race of people are slowly disappearing, but in the social side of life, we lead. It's kind of like showing that, yes, government did come and say, now we destine your future, you Hawaiians don't get to speak for yourselves. So that happened, what, a couple hundred years ago, or 150 years ago. So this is the results. So how does that get addressed, and who's going to address it? How many governors that went by that allow statistics to show and stats to show an increase in this behavior of Native Hawaiian people? And yes, okay, we may say you got the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. They've been around for 25 years. They're not lifting a hand to do anything like we're trying to do. So you can see that there's a big neglect on treating Hawaiians, and government's not being responsible, and education departments not conditioning the young to look at these kind of situations or the social life of Hawaiians. And it's a responsibility of maybe the Hawaiian Trust and different departments, but it's not the responsibility of everybody. I think it is. I mean, this is Hawaii. Everybody calls Hawaii their home, and we're not a continent, so you really can't hide. And I think that because we're an island, they've kind of threw us in the stir fry to get lost in the population and the glitter about our situations as Native Hawaiians. And of course, the people that run our departments are pretty comfortable because you can't see no change. If statistics are not changing, then nobody's doing nothing. That's how basic it is. And it's been happening like that throughout the history, I mean, of the United States with ethnic people. And in Hawaii, we're really getting the treatment by not allowing us to address the situations that put us in these social predicaments. So now we're saying that if there's an avenue that we could use to bring this to the surface and say, yeah, it's a lawsuit, but we know the long shots in winning a lawsuit. But maybe it's a window and an opportunity to express what we're talking about, to show the statistics of what we're talking about, to let the public know that, yeah, we are paying attention and it's big neglect. And how much does a Hawaiian have to give in the community as a Hawaiian? I mean, we're all comfortable in Hilo or on this island, but everybody buys their products on a reservation type of land, on Hawaiian homelands. You know, what does a Hawaiian get out of this? He gets to wait because they'll never rip up a parking lot at Walmart and put a Hawaiian home there. You know that already. So this Hawaiian who has a right to these lands don't get it to use them because of administration again, government running their lands. It's Department of Hawaiian Homelands, but it seems like everybody has an opportunity to use it more than the Hawaiians do. And it's bailed out the whole east side of this island by using Hawaiian lands. They're not on Mr. Johnson's land or Mr. Sasaki's land, they're on Hawaiian homelands. And that's where everybody will fix their car, fix their house, do everything that you're doing, even buy Pampers. You're all on Hawaiian homelands. I mean, then you got the whole security of the United States using Pu'uhonua to say we're going to protect America, we got to use Hawaiian homelands so we can practice on it. It's the Hawaiian, it's the Hawaiian, it's the Hawaiian. And how come we are in this predicament when we've been so generous in how you look at what the Hawaiians have give to the communities and how the communities and government rip them off? So here we are at the bottom, not grumbling or trying to say, hey, we want Hawaiians to be in business. We want Hawaiians to have a good life or be CEOs or something. No, I'm not saying that. We're talking about the Hawaiians that they let fall through the cracks, and then it's multiplying itself. It's about the Hawaiians that nobody want to care about no more. And you're wondering who's going to care for them if government's not going to be responsible. Then it's going to be organizations and people like us that's going to say, we got to do something. Well, yeah, I mean, we hug a lot of things in the environment that we would care about, but we don't care about the Hawaiian that live here in these islands that had no really say-so on their future. They've just been occupied and it just never looked back since. So I know there will always be generations of mad people or mad Hawaiians knowing that the history is so blatant and nobody's correcting nothing. So the way you get out of that 9 out of 10 times is you commit crimes or you get vulnerable to become some kind of a social problem. You're vulnerable to every escapee of the social problem. So where does that end up? It ends up in jail. It ends up in prison. And then when you look at the statistics of things, the Hawaiian is leading in this role, and today with 6,000 prisoners and 4,000 Hawaiians. So now all of a sudden, the Hawaiian's miserable part of his life, the downslide of a human being, becomes a commodity for government. Government start making money off of this Hawaiian by making 40,000 tax dollars per person to stay in jail for 5 years for 40,000 a year for a $5,000 car. So it don't make no sense. And it's just being blatant and just say, I'm going to use numbers and that's all I care about. If the numbers were Hawaiians leading in this number, I wouldn't be in this jail. But why is it we're there and we're not the minority here, majority in Hawaii anymore, but we lead in the downsides like this? And how can we stop, make government more responsible about saying, you've taken so much from the Hawaiians from their lands, you've taken their ceded lands that were crown lands, ceded to the state, you collect money and rent from these lands, that's why the airports are there, and boat transportations and harbors and all the Department of Transportation ceded lands, and you give the Hawaiians back 20%. How long have you been giving 20%? And how much revenue have you really collected? And how come we only get 20%? Isn't it our land from the beginning? So why isn't it the other way around? Government figure out how to run government, not use my land and my money, and we become these social statistics on bad and health and everything else that follows after prisoners, and you capitalize on that. Who's really taking advantage of what, man? And how much Hawaiians really care? Or is it all the Hawaiians that are comfortable with their positions that they're at today, wherever they're sitting in these trusts, all comfortable in the trust so they don't need to do nothing? Just don't make waves? Just be happy? Is the trust living up to their obligations that adjust to these times? Oh, we're talking about a trust that was set up 1800s. When do these trusts move up to adjust to 2000, where we are today? And say we have to make changes in our vision because the vision isn't there anymore. The reasons we created these trusts are different than they are now. Why don't we make adjustments to that so we can deal with these Hawaiians that fall through the crack? What you got, 50%ers that fall through and go in jail? You got enough percentage that go Kamehameha school that's go in jail? Every trust and whatever their guidelines about how they treat the Hawaiians in these trusts, they're all in prison, they fit. But there's nothing in the trust that say, we can't go and fix that. Maybe you can't come to Kamehameha school because you gotta pass a test and you gotta have a blood quantum. Fine, that's your rule. But that don't mean you cannot help prisoners, Hawaiian children that's going to boys' school, girls' school. Your trust doesn't say you cannot do that, you just don't do it. And that's the embarrassing part, is that we got government that we go blame. You know, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, which is true, but what's a trust supposed to do? Watch? They're part of the problem. I mean, I think we're the wealthiest race, if you look at all the money that this trust has, than any other nation of Hawaiian people. Look at the portfolios of these trusts. And we're supposed to be in these poor situations? You can see the rip-off and the neglect. And really, not just blatant in front of all the people that live in Hawaii today, to watch what the trusts are doing, to watch them, watch their own people become statistics. It's a big problem. And I think that every governor is responsible. They can go tell a trust about their part and their duty. But no, we end up with governor after governor after governor, and government after government after government, and the statistics still stays the same, if not worse. And it's sad that it gets worse when you're the least of the population. Now what? How do you hide? So they're saying, well, we don't want to take a prisoner with Hawaiians only. Well, maybe we're the only state constitution in the United States that talks about a race. Maybe you should do your homework and look and say, what's the state constitution? California, Oregon, Washington, all that. Does it say like Hawaii? Article 12, Section 7 of the state constitution? Uphold traditional and customary practices? Is it taking care of ourselves and having our own prison because nobody else is taking care? Isn't that a traditional or customary way? Pu'uhonua, a place where you can come and have a different attitude about who you are. Don't have this Sigmund Freud stigma stuck on top of fixing things. We're not from that type of tree. We have a whole different understanding about plantation and colonialism and planned genocide. I mean, that's not the Sigmund Freud kind of talk. But that's what we get. We don't want to address those situations about migrations and impacts as done from Hawaiians from day one of impacts of migration. Let alone PTSD about the overthrow. And all the Hawaiians that live downtown Honolulu, what? Those Hawaiians were different kind of Hawaiians than downtown Kau. From way back. These ones already were saying, I accept. That's the way it is. I can see it. I'm going to go with the flow. And we're going to make history. So all about Hawaii is all about downtown Oahu. Nothing about us on the outer islands. Then we get judged by that mentality. We get treated like by that mentality of Hawaiians. You guys understand, the blacks went through the same thing. They had the black one working in the plantation, working inside the house with the maid, or being a maid. He was different than the black guy out there in the bushes working on the cane, in a cotton field. That's the same mentality. You got the one downtown Oahu Hawaiian, and you got us living outside here, and they impose all these ways and ideas on us out here who's living as close to the land, as close to traditions, as long as possible. And feel that, you know, if we really wanted one Oahu over here, we could have really done it if we wanted. But we don't really want it. We want to live this way. I can catch a plane and go to Oahu. But I want to live with my resources. I want to live with my responsibility. I want to live with my family's responsibility and role of where I come from and what I was raised. But I'm being told how to live. I'm being judged how I live by the Hawaiians that live on Oahu. And you can see what kind of Hawaiians that is. If we're here pleading about Hawaiians falling through the cracks and why are there so many, and all the Hawaiians are downtown, don't even catch it. And with technology today, you just one finger and you find all the answers or see all the problems. And they don't seem to understand. The governor and all the legislature is going to say, well, you know, if we start looking at reducing prisoners, then we're going to lose 200-something million a year on public safety. 200 million plus runs public safety with tax dollars in Hawaii. How do you like that? And nobody seems to want to address that. We're a remedy to that problem. And we're a remedy to the state by saying, you haven't taken care, you've had a chance, you have histories of chances. Governors and legislators, how many years of this stuff? And we're going to come up and bring up the same problem that was started a long time ago, just that it compounded itself so much now that we got to raise the issue. And are we not good enough raising these issues? You know, we get turned down by law firms in Hawaii that don't seem to want to champion this whole thing about Native Hawaiians. The lawyers say, oh man, well, I don't think we can win this issue. It's not about winning, it's an issue. You know, when do we ever win Hawaiians in courts? But we always seem to bring it to a light so people can look at it, people can see it. In other words, don't kick that stone again. We let you know it's there. If that's all we got, that's all we got. But if we don't do nothing and say nothing, we got nothing. Because you can see government's not doing nothing. And that's the sad part. The people in government aren't passionate people. They all got egos. The ego people. They're not passionate about nothing. So I'm saying that we think that this kind of time and issue has to be raised. Maybe something might happen before next legislation. We know we're probably going to get kicked around in this system because Abercrombie doesn't want to give up Kulani. They already committed $500,000 to repairing it for the prisoners to come home. He's got 6,000 prisoners. I don't know how 200 is going to fix this so-called way I'm going to fix. He's not fixing nothing. It's a pacifier and it's a cheap one. So we wanted to raise the issues about Native Hawaiians and why can't we take care of ourselves? And why can't Article 12, Section 7 about judicial customary practice be applied as a reason why the state has to support this, because they have no record of them doing anything better. So we say we'd like to do this. We'd like to take care of ourselves. What's wrong with that? You had your chance. Every race had their chance. Even the Hawaiian. But they never did nothing about it. You know, in my activist years, fighting for access rights, burial rights, historical sites, access to this heiau, all these things are very cultural and religious and spiritually motivated. So we kind of wake up all the new Hawaiian lawyers, young lawyers, or lawyers who want to help and understand how to get us to win these access rights, burial protection, all this stuff. And that's my past experience learning water, all these things. But nobody has ever stepped up to the human rights aspect of it. Nobody. Nobody challenged the system about the social problems of Native Hawaiians today. There isn't any of these kind of arguments. It's access, like I said before, it's protection, tradition of this and tradition of that. This is the first time I see where there's a human rights issue stepping forward, where you can see different nationalities understanding about human rights. There's never been something in Hawaii talked about, maybe back in the day. But statistics, if we paid attention, that fits. equal justice and treatment fits. Statistics showing off of races is a point of argument. Especially if you're a minority or the host. So, it's everybody's problem living in Hawaii. You don't want that ghetto in the corner where you can put them on the side and forget about them. No. That Hawaiian, wherever you may think ghetto, he shops with you at Walmart. He plays in the park where your kids swim at the beach. You don't get away and just push this guy on the side like maybe in some western places where you can push them down the lower part of town. That ain't Hawaii, man. We have to live together in this whole thing. And if it's sad that we get worried about when you see one mad Hawaiian walking around with a chip on his shoulder and he don't know why he got that chip. He doesn't know that that chip's turned into a big log already. And he can't deal with it. Because he got no place to turn to. The statistics say 40% of all the women without husbands or vice versa is in jail. So, the statistics also say that these kids whose parents are in jail, 9 out of 10 times go the same direction. So what the state's trying to say with these statistics? We're going to breed jailbirds. We're going to breed them because this is what it shows. They don't show me anything about dealing with it. How to address these statistics. And there's not too many Hawaiians I know that get up and speak on human rights and equal justice. And we better, to me, blame government. We better blame the education department. When every black child in America knows what racism is. And we grow up in Hawaii not knowing racism. When it's the biggest ass kicker we've been getting. It's how we gotta shut up, got no voice, and always pleading to some foreign face about our existence here. And the foreign face tells us, you got 3 minutes. Our lifetime, 3 minutes. And you know, if people may think that's not frustration, all these little formulas of genocide, all these little things like that, like you're not the right person, you can't say the right thing, you don't have a voice there, we don't care about your religion, we're going to dig up your burials, we're going to over-commercialize your resources, we're going to pollute your ocean. We're going to take away your rights. And you got to act like a New Yorker now. All those little things, you try to compile them together and figure out where do I go to get remedies to this. Prison is the best place. Take your frustration out. You can go there and say, don't blame me, I've been behind bars all my life. But it's the frustration about maybe you can't making it out there that you cop out to behind the bars. And when you get back out, you can't deal with it because it's doubled, compound the problem at home that you left. Your fastest escape is to go back. Then I could say why I didn't fulfill my obligations because I was locked up. It's kind of premeditated lockup because you got no revenue. So, it's important that we raise these issues.
Pass this down to you, buddy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So, we're hoping to say that the federal level might bring some attention to these islands, to our thing. We'll let all the DC people know, our representatives all got a packet. And we want to see if we can make the ripple come back to Hawaii. knowing from my past experience, Hawaii's media is not too friendly with the Hawaiian movement. So we don't really get our word out to nothing. It's always suppressed here. Papers suppress it, radio suppress it, the media suppresses it. It's all supposed to be okay in Hawaii. You know, we're all supposed to be attracted to the glitter, not the real problems behind the glitter. And that's where we at with this. So, you know, if the Hawaiians weren't the lead, we wouldn't have much to say at all. It would be but we just not seem to be getting an answer or some remedy to this problem about being locked up and incarcerated. And that's why we're trying to raise the issue and saying that if the feds can come in and make some noise, I think that's really important. Even though it's legitimate, we're not just going there for yow and stuff. We really want them to come and look at it. Hope the governor takes a look at it with his campaign mind, if he wants to be governor again. Does he want to champion this thing about no governors care and he's going to be the first one to care? I really don't care. I just want some results, so we should get some results of what we're doing. As far as the legal side, we got to do what we have to do through the steps of the legal process. Strategy-wise, I think before legislation, we should be drafting some bills in legislatures so saying that if the courts don't want to fulfill our concerns, then maybe they'll fall on bills being passed as a cover-up because of maybe a big can of worms we'd open up. So maybe there's another way of us winning. So the strategy would be to have some bills that deal with the same answers that we want so that maybe they can fall on that. That's how we're organizing, or that's what we're doing. And we're still seeking legal assistance. Maybe with this press release to the feds, we might attract somebody because part of our press release is to look for legal support. And maybe with the feds paying attention, we might have someone, you know. You know, we talked about it. We had one Hawaiian retired doctor that I met 30 years ago in the movement. His name was Kekuni Blaisdell. He was a doctor. And then he retired. He spent the rest of his life as a Hawaiian doctor, fighting for the cause. You know, just being there where always raising issues, always was the hardline issue. And he spent his retirement years and he spent his retirement money helping Hawaiians and all organizations to make a better place for Hawaiians. I mean, it's still going now, but I'm wondering why we don't have a retired Hawaiian lawyer that's just as successful, got nothing to do but catch suntan, no step up to the plate and try to champion something like this because it's a civil rights issue. Gosh, nobody's done this, and I think it's important that we cannot just scream for Native rights and not look at Native treatment in our government. Yeah, I do need my rights, but if I'm treated like crap, maybe I don't care about my rights no more. I think it goes hand in hand that I really can't practice traditions if I'm not treated fairly. And that's all it is. It's up and up. And as I said before, I think we got the richest trusts and Hawaiian people are supposed to be taking care of us than anything else. They probably get more money than the whale people get, you know. And talking about our trusts, and then we don't have funds for attorney. So I think there is lots of room for something to happen. And I don't know, did I exhaust myself here? But I'm just trying to say that, you know, look, we got University of Hawaii. This is the University of Hawaii, Hawaiian Studies. Right here's one street. Right here is Richardson School of Law. How come these two guys not talking story about how these law affect this? When all of us get arrested for Hawaiian things, and we gotta go to the law to fight them in court. But these two guys don't talk story every day. They see each other, but they don't cross the street, have lunch, and go, Malcolm Mackay, how is there a violation of this? We don't want a treaty with America. We don't. So all we get is this paperwork done during a con-con. And the paperwork said, state statute, Article 12, Section 7, state constitution, that they got to uphold these practices, traditional and customary. That's the words, traditional and customary. So I'm going, well, first of all, if the law school people, from the Hawaiian studies people, they get sit together and we're going, how about this fishing regulation book that DLNR puts out? Yeah? Aren't we exempt because of traditional and customary practice? So I don't need to be part of this fishing regulation book. I'm not commercializing. I'm traditionally gathering. So that means I know how to malama already. I'm not going to over-abuse because it's only for traditional practice, not commercial. Commercial is abuse. So give one stamp on the book and say, this is the Hawaii fishing regulations, Hawaiians should be exempt. That's what we found out because it's contradicting traditional practice, and then over here I'm a criminal, and over here I'm not a criminal. Well, come on, who's what? Where am I going? Then you move into the hunting. Then you move into who owns the heiaus, who owns the Catholic churches. Is it the Vatican or is it the Baptist? So who owns the heiau? The Hawaiian, the state, Mr. Johnson. What is this? It's a religious thing. I mean, there's lots of things that we shouldn't be talking like Mayflower days, but we should be addressing these kind of issues with Hawaiian studies and Richardson School of Law to avoid these kind of situations. And it's just years and years of getting no answers that you come up with these ways of thinking. That is true common sense not to have some kind of answer or results. So maybe that should be some of the things that the future is that these guys got to work together. You just can't teach the same law that stole from us. Okay? And then the new law, we got to go get arrested to make a new law. Gee, come on. There's something's up there. You got a whole university there. You should be at the legislature every year making amendments and changing rules and changing laws that complement me as a Hawaiian because of Hawaiian studies reinforcement to those complements. That's what I think should happen. And we cannot keep pretending that we're not that smart enough. Because it is embarrassing for the rest of the population to see the Hawaiians this slack, this neglectful to themselves and not responsible more for themselves. So it's embarrassing for me that we're at this kind of level and we should be real sharper, way better. And these kind of predicaments should have been addressed.
Maybe I can help bring everybody up to speed of where we are at. We passed out the draft press release, and this is the idea that came from Williamson Chang and Ohana Ho'opakele has thought about it, because as you know, on August the 12th, Eric Holder was the first black Attorney General of the United States, made the announcement that we are warehousing people in prison, and that's a waste, right? And it's hitting certain vulnerable people, and so he said we should get rid of the mandatory minimum sentencing. If they're not part of the gangs, if they're not violent crimes, if they're not top of the drug cartels, they shouldn't be in prison, yeah? So even yesterday, he gave a direction to his people in the Attorney General's department saying, begin to change the way you prosecute people on this. So we're saying, I think the same thing is happening in Hawaii, right? They're warehousing Hawaiians there. The vulnerable people should not be in there, but they are. And so if the state is not going to do it, let's ask Eric Holder to come and do an investigation of why there's a large number of Hawaiians in prison. Now, even OHA statistics say they're 41%, but Radine Karasuda in her PhD says you cannot trust the public safety statistics. And she claims it's more than 60%. Yeah? Imagine, 60% of Hawaiians in prison. That's crazy. Yeah? It shouldn't happen. So that's what Polly is saying. There must be a civil rights issue right here. And Williamson Chang did the research. Nobody has won a civil rights case on why there's a disproportionate number of these vulnerable people in prison. Yeah? So we don't think we can win on the civil rights case. So that's why we try to fight on the Kulani issue. We had only 30 days to file a lawsuit because they came out with a final environmental assessment. It doesn't mention Pu'uhonua at all in it when Governor signed Act 117 that says the Department of Public Safety, in cooperation with Ohana Ho'opakele and other restorative justice groups, should plan for Pu'uhonua, a wellness center, preferably at Kulani, unless there's a site better suited for it. So they don't even, in the final assessment, they just included Act 117 in it. So that's a foot in the door. So we're saying, no, they should really talk about the social impacts on Hawaiians if they're going to build a prison, right? Because the majority of Hawaiians are coming back. So we're trying to take that issue, and so maybe Williamson Chang can talk a little bit more because, you know, in this legal case, we're trying to put in more political, moral issues in it. And we're probably not going to win, but we needed to raise the awareness in the public of what the problem is. Because if everybody knows about a Pu'uhonua, who would be against it, right? It's a win-win for everybody. It'll cut down the high cost of incarceration, it'll heal people, it'll get people out of the prison system, the money can be used for elsewhere. And Palikapu is the one who came up with the brilliant idea. He's saying all these Ali Hawaiian trusts, you know, are supposed to be serving the Hawaiian people. Why can't we get them to commit long-term resources for Pu'uhonua, right? And if we're pushing and say, let's do a 200-bed Hawaiians-only Pu'uhonua up at Kulani, then the Ali Trust should put in resources, right? They should, if the Queen's Hospital has been doing alternative medicine all these years, bring all that knowledge to the Pu'uhonua and use it there, right? Yeah. And QLCC, which has spearheaded Ho'oponopono, bring those resources and do Ho'oponopono there, yeah? And all of the others, Bishop of State, we get so much resources, they should bring that so it doesn't only burden the state, but all the Ali Trust do that. And so that's what we're trying to do, build up that awareness in all of Hawaii that we should be doing Pu'uhonua healing, not punishing in prison, yeah? So we did a kahea, and almost all of you have signed. If you haven't, you signed it today. And we have 1,631 who signed on that now. The packet that we had is a little dated, and it doesn't have all of the notables in it, but Anna Kaka signed it. The latest one is Colleen Hanabusa signed it. Billy Kanoe signed it. Kurt Cadwell signed it. 3 ex-mayors, Lorraine Inouye, Dante Carpenter, and Harry Kim have signed it. We're hoping Margaret's going to sign it too. But we have 3 of the ex-council members, Donald Ikeda and Fred Blas and Dominic Yagong have signed it. We've gotten senators. Willis Sparrow has signed it, who sits on the Senate side. We got John Mizuno signed it. Yeah? No, he hasn't signed it, yeah. So we're trying to get more and more of the notables, yeah, and pretty soon David Ige is going to run against the governor, is going to sign it, yeah. We sent a packet of all of our material to Duke Iona that we met when he was lieutenant governor, and he said, oh yeah, I remember you coming in and talking to me about the Pu'uhonua. but I wasn't ready to commit at that point, so I'll think about it now, So we're trying to create the atmosphere in Hawaii, no more prisons anymore. It's built on punishment, do something that only Hawaii can do, right? When the bill first came and Uncle Joe shepherded through the legislature, Trina Shapiro, who was writing for AP at that time, wrote an article, and 101 outlets, media outlets in North America carried that story, in 31 states, including Washington, D.C. Why did so many carry that story? Because I think they know that prisons are not working where they are, and they're looking for somebody who can provide a solution. And I think when we looked all around, the solution is here, The Hawaiians were doing it a long time ago, and people are still practicing things about that now, and it can be put into practice if they're willing to change. So that's what we need, the pressure on the system to force them to change, and that's where we're going now. And so if you have questions about the lawsuit, I think Williamson Chang is willing to answer that, and how it fits in the political structure. Pali has been invited by Williamson Chang to speak to the law students on November 7th, and then on the same day, Andre Perez, who's studying at Hawaiian Studies, is arranging for him to speak to the Hawaiian Studies students on the same day. So we're trying to build the support within these important places to force the system to deal with it. Now this draft press release, we sent it to our advisor, Dante Carpenter, who is the head of the Democratic Party. So he went into the governor's office and is kind of worried about how the party is going to do in the next election, right? So he talked to Bruce Copa, who's the chief of staff of the governor, and the governor has set up, Bruce Copa has set up a meeting between him, Dante Carpenter, and Ted Sakai next week. We were hoping that we were going to be part of that negotiations too, but they kept us out of it, so we're not quite sure. I think the excuse was because we have a lawsuit against them that we cannot be there at the same table, but I think that's a shibai. But because of the lawsuit, we mailed a letter to the Pahau at Saguaro, inviting them to join us as pro se plaintiffs. So all of us who are on the Ohana Ho'opakele board are there as pro se plaintiffs without a lawyer. And so Dorea and Uncle Sam, myself, Palikapu as our president, and as an individual, Jim Albertini. So we invited Pahau to join as pro se, and today I went down and got mail. So we have now 71 Pahau from Saguaro who signed on the form that they will join us as pro se plaintiffs. Now we don't think this is the end, but just in a few weeks that we've sent the form in, they're sending it back. And so the authorities are reading the mail, so they know these are all signing. And so I think they're putting a little pressure on Williamson Chang and saying we got to be careful on what we're doing with them. But anyway, I think all of this is, we think in the long run, the right is going to win, right? Right. And so we need the support of everyone and understanding so we can build the pressure to really do something that is meaningful here. So I don't know if Uncle Sam wants to say anything more, but if you have any questions directed to Williamson Chang or Palikapu or anyone, and then we can get more thinking. I know Margaret herself is a lawyer, so if she has any questions, we'd be glad to hear. And we sent out the complaint. I don't know how many of you were able to read it, but we think that's a starting point. And we don't know when the hearing will be, but we sure can use the support of everyone.
Can I make a few comments?
Sure.
Supporting what said. Definitely the word rip-off is what's happening. But I think just looking at the trust, that Article 12, Section 7, you have the traditional customary rights, and also Article 12, Section 4, the public trust lands. And as I see that, I actually brought a case that right now the Supreme Court 2-3 ruled against taking it, and I'm on the dissent side. But anyway, that says the state is the trustee of that land for the benefit of Native Hawaiians for various uses, in some circumstances Native Hawaiians and the general public, the Maka'aina. And it's being treated as like the PLDC would have taken that trust land out of being the trust rest and into a corporation. So we're moving into, it's not just putting you all down so you don't have any power, only charging people $1 to rent so that they only have to give you 20 cents, right? You know, they wouldn't want you to have too much monetary power. And like if they got it into the PLDC, suddenly it's no trust land. It's just that little governor's the people operating it on. And they're saying, oh, well, this enables us to give you. And I'm going, well, what do you mean give you? They're the ones that are the right to control. You have to ask them. You know, they're the beneficiary. If somebody, you set up a trust for your son and he's the beneficiary, you know, you're doing it to serve that person. You're not doing it and treating it that way. So, and I agree about lawyers. I took, you know, I do land use, but I had one Norman Kanaina and his church came to me and said, Margaret, I have a hearing tomorrow, and 21 lawyers turned me down. And I said, I don't know anything about this area law, but okay. But I'm getting calls, don't take this case. You know, I mean, I got pressure, don't take this case. I'm stay up all night, write some stuff out. Anyway, we kept going and going, and the state and the court just kept saying, no, there's no right to this land. And it was land basically that the Church of Christ was overseeing as a passive trustee for the benefit of the Hawaiian church. This was one of them. And instead, they're making deals with the state, so the state's coming in and taking the Hawaiian church's land. So we've got it up to the Supreme Court, and I won. So all these, but was there anything in the paper? Was there anything at all? And Norman wrote a letter thanking the court, thanking me, all of this. And here it was saying, state, you were lying and taking our land, you know, into the, you know, what was going on. And not one word. You know, and I had the deeds and this and that. So the same thing what you're trying to say. But I do think there's a lot of, my case that just got denied cert by the Supreme Court was on access rights. And you know, there was the Constitution, the public trust, and the access right says when state land is disposed of, including by lease, that you have to consider reasonable rights of ways. And that's pursuant to the provision for Native Hawaiians and the general public. And so I went to court, and Judge Strand said, well, Margaret, we've only enforced this to the sea. We don't enforce it to the mountains. And that's what I was saying, right? It's only when there's customary rights, and they've got little special rights here, and little special, they've always done it traditionally, and they have an interest there, so we narrowed that meaning there. And I said, well, that's why I'm here. And the law uses the word shall. So they said, no, this was Parker Ranch owns, leases all the major parcels in Waimea. Okay, so it was up to the forest. And they also said, and you can't go to court. The court has no right to review this decision. And so I said, well, here's this law that provides these rights that came out of the Federal Admissions Act, that came out of Kamehameha III negotiating, who said, I'm not going to agree to these little kuleana things unless the people can get to the sea and get to the forest. They're not whole. And so the court, Judge Grant said to the state, you mean to say we have no right to review this? And basically, the attorneys for the state said, well, that's right, maybe there's some way, but haven't found it. So it went to the Intermediate Court of Appeals. Intermediate Court of Appeals said, no, there's no right to go to court. So I said, so we have a right with no remedy. Here it is, a right with no remedy. So I went to the Supreme Court. I said, take this case. Here's a right with no remedy, and here's also that you're saying the judiciary is just going to let the state do whatever it wants, so it never has to grant a contested case. And my land is right next to it, so they could not say I did not have standing. I mean, I had every little, of all the little loops, I made it through every one. So I went under the Article 12, Section 4, which is the one part that includes the general public, benefit of Native Hawaiians and the general public. I said, no, I'm not Hawaiian, I'm not going under that, but this right is for the people, regardless, this access rights. And I brought that up, and the Intermediate Court says I didn't bring it up. It's in this document, argued, and they just went ahead. And so the majority on the Supreme Court, 3 just said, we're just going to affirm the decision of the Intermediate Court of Appeal that the court has no right to review the agency DLNR's decision. And the dissent by 2 judges was 18 pages of all the things that we're talking about, like obviously, and here's this constitutional right. But I think that it's, like right now I have the GMO bill, and again, you keep saying, the state and the government, they're giving it away to all these corporations. Whether it's the PLDC and the little buddies, so it's like consolidating into the same plantation era politics and plantation era mentality of control by a few. They tried to they had a bill in last year, SB 747, that's eliminated any local county rule over anything having to do with well-being, health, and everything, and agriculture. And so I went there and had a fit, but it finally shamed them into, you can't do this, you can't put an ocean between the people and their first layer of government. But nobody else was there. I was the only government official there, present at that hearing. And who was on the other side? The Monsantos. And all of the statute is basically all these state people giving it to their little clique pet corporations. So that's why, like right now, you've got, they're fighting like the bill that I have, the GMO, and I feel that that's important to the Hawaiians, the whole thing about agriculture and your farms, and where they've come in and Monsanto and planted their corn. If it drips over into your garden, they own that, and they can sue you under the patent laws for your use of their seeds. And the federal government doesn't do anything about it. The state people are all not doing anything, they're just giving it away. So all you have left is these little communities around the nation. And here, Kauai, everybody's sick in Kauai. Do we want to be like that? So I do think what you said is try to do a lot of different things. You do the case, and you're going to be suppressed. So many things I do, it doesn't come up in the paper. You didn't see a big thing. County Council 7-0 against fracking. However, no big deal out of that. It's like fracking's fractured. What kind of message is nothing in West Hawaii today? But also doing the bills, and I think it is shame. I mean, most of the cases I think I win is by shaming them. You're so arrogant. You can just treat people like this. And I think that's, what you're doing. And also, like on the GMOs, I feel that it hurts the most vulnerable populations. I expect it'll hurt that whole issue of GMOs. It hurts those that got diabetes a lot and inflammation. So it's another, we don't care about you. Those kind of things. So I do think doing that as many prongs as you can and getting whatever publicity you can And like also, whether it's the GMO bill or others, that it is really a Hawaiian issue and caring for our soil. And not, if you buy, when somebody says, I think I'll try that GMO seed, they become a licensee to a patent. And basically like going to the feudal system without even knowing it. So the more we can all work together, I think holding on to the local, and we can get you so that you do a presentation to the county council and things like that, and just do as much, all the different ways that you can be circling this. But I always go back to that trust land. So what is the whole idea of a trust? You're a trust for the benefit of those beneficiaries, and it has to be in their best interest, and that's exactly how Article 12, Section 4 is set out. And otherwise, you're breaching your duty of loyalty, you're breaching your duty of care. And the same thing, I think, that with Kulani Prison, it is, again, here are people getting out their last year or two, they're going to walk out the door and be in our town. We have an interest not in treating them and making them more dependent and, so just sort of like take the orders, you can't think. We have an investment in enabling them to participate, and it's only a year or two. So that it's not just for the benefit of Hawaiian, it's for our island. I mean, I feel it's sort of like, Margaret, what are you doing this stuff about Kulani? That's a state issue. So if it's on our island, it's our issue. But, so I do think all the different ways that you can work on it, but especially all these PLDC things, all of this moving, so the corporations are now, and our judiciary, our Supreme Court, and all of them are just empowering the corporations. Unlimited amount of money. Money is speech. So therefore freedom to do anything you want with the money. And the same thing on each of the court cases and how they just limit, keep you down. But you said, you have the potential wealth. But once that moves out and gets into these little things, it's very hard to get it back. So just support it. The only thing that I feel that I could probably do is doing, at some point doing a presentation on some of these issues, and then at least you get before the council, and means you're on 5 times on television, and sort of, I focus on this island, the same way you say Honolulu. Home rule, we want to have some say-so in what happens here, and what people are happening, and what's going on. And instead of it being, agriculture state, when I did stuff on the little red fire ant, I said, if we don't do something in 2008, it's going to be all over. There's no state issue. Now we're losing $1.7 billion potential from all the risk of the fire ant. So we've got to, I feel, focus on this island and what we're doing, and if it's on this island, say so. I know you're bringing up about the human rights issue, and I'm not sure how that low, but really the corporations have taken over a lot of that. What are their rights? This will probably likely become Kulani, and then it'll turn into a Halliburton prison. In other words, another corporate prison, and let's get rid of all the activists and keep everybody poor, and there's the very rich and the very poor and a bunch of peons, and like you said, how many lawyers? I mean, Norman dug me out, a land use law. I had no idea what his stuff was, but so I think you're doing the right things. It's just like you said, if you don't do it, you can't sit around and whine and complain if you're not taking a stand. And I do think right now, like just look at on the GMO, we had 600 people sign up, signatures to come testify, over 1,000 letters, and many Hawaiians, and how important it was in the land, and respect for the soil. That's what it's all about. We shouldn't poison it. That the soil and the aina and the people, and you disconnect them and poison them. Do we want someone that poisons our soil to take over the island? Anyway, I commend you. I mean, I'm on the council now, try to do a lot, but I think,
So another issue would be like all of the legal trusts should be going to Hawaiian people. Now OHA has control of all these benefits. It's not going to crash Hawaiian families. And all of the cases won already, Hawaiian cases, won on the Supreme Court. And they got collecting revenue still, like the Hilton Waikoloa. And was decided by the judge is to Hawaiians, but it's not going to Hawaiians.
and so that's another area. OHA, you gotta get your act together, just like they're leasing all the land, land to
So
us.
who is responsible for all of this? Is it the people for not acting against? So the kind of important issue to bring out to the attention of the public, the rest of the Hawaiians, they like give up. From time to time, they get excited, they go, they give up. So, too much suppression from the local government. Our elected politicians, they claim to be Hawaiians, but they what? They working with the corporations, and they see a real kupuna, everybody help, help, help. For how long they say help, and no help has come to the Hawaiians.
Be grateful,
All of
like
these
Carrie
issues.
over there.
All of these
Yes.
issues should be brought up.
In the word,
Yeah.
People do want to hear the story. I posted one picture of you all and somebody said, where's the live stream? So now we're on live stream. Say hello, internet. So they're watching us. They're watching us right now.
well, OHA, talking about OHA, their trustees are coming to Hilo next week, Wednesday. And there's a meeting, a community meeting at Auntie Sally's Luau Hale on Wednesday at 6:30. And so Dante Carpenter, our advisor, is flying over. We're trying to get on the agenda. If not, we'll sign up to be there. And he's going to be starting getting their attention as an ex-trustee to get them to sit there erect when we talk to them too. So we're
You are on the agenda, I give Uncle
oh,
the...
you saw that?
No, you're on it.
Oh,
You're on the
good,
agenda
yeah.
already, I give Uncle the OHA agenda right there.
Oh, good, good.
It's the latest. So I give Dr. Sam. You're on the agenda
Oh,
already.
yeah. Kamaili Maldonado is a new lawyer from Berkeley. Graduate is hired by OHA as a public policy advocate, is coming, and she's going to join us at the Ohana Ho'opakele meeting next Thursday. So you're welcome to come and sit in on the meeting too. 9 o'clock, sorry Rachel. Yeah, our meetings are weekly at 9 o'clock at Church of the Holy Cross in the youth lounge. So we'll go up Wednesday night and speak at the community meeting, and then Kamaili will join us on the next day.
You'll be sending that out in email, the notice?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chang, can you maybe talk about where you see the lawsuit and what
The lawsuit was, as Ron put it, we had 30 days to file something. And the something was an action for declaratory and injunctive relief that they act on Bill 117 and follow through with what the legislature wanted, which was Kulani Honor Camp to become a Pu'uhonua. They really have us in a box because they took all the information and they didn't comment on it. They took all the information from Ohana Ho'opakele, they took the slideshow, the PowerPoint show, they took all the information and they just
ignored it?
ignored it and put it at the end of the report. And the report said There's no findings of any significant impacts on Native Hawaiians if we turn Kulani Honor Camp into a minimum security prison. And that was despite all the writings that were submitted. And they said, if we file a finding of no significant impact, you have 30 days to file something. We're not going to tell you what you have to do, and we're not going to tell you that you're going to win. So we filed something. And it was a complaint that was basically more modeled as if it were a statement of our position. It included the trust lands issue. It included customary rights, traditional access gathering issue. It included the issue that the legislature has wanted this. So who are you, Department of Public Safety, to ignore the legislature? So the document is more of a statement for people to read. It's more of an informative piece as to who's participating, who's behind this, and that it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason why there shouldn't be a Pu'uhonua. Everybody knows the prison system doesn't work. Everybody knows that it costs more than a Pu'uhonua. Everybody knows Hawaiians, each in their family, have someone who's been affected by this. These people are coming home. These are like people in their second and third year or 3-year sentence. They're basically there for drug-related or addiction crimes. The prison system doesn't work. So what we're presenting is, this is a no-brainer. The prison system doesn't work. The Attorney General of the United States has said that. It's clear that it doesn't work. These people are they're being sent back to prison for the same kind of recidivist offenses, such as addiction, which is a medical condition. And so the idea is education, and use the lawsuit as a piece of education.
That's how I looked at my lawsuit. Okay, either this right, or I want everybody to know that you have this right and no remedy. You know, here it is.
I have, go ahead.
No, there's a hand.
Yeah, I've been writing on the prison system. Clifford Medina, case a fellow from Ohio was current lawsuit brought against the Human Rights Council, ACLU, and a mainland law firm in San Francisco that deals with prison issues. He was killed by a former classmate of his who also grew up in Ohio. So what I'm wondering is the two things on the public policy issue of the Pu'uhonua. That seems to have some momentum. California is pushing their prison population out in new ways. So there seems to have some traction, and Holder you might be interested. The second part of it is there a legal precedent? Because the Bureau of Justice Statistics, it drills down into prison populations. And essentially what you're asking is the Bureau of Justice, Department of Justice at the federal level, to segregate a population. Is there a precedent for segregating a population by race?
I don't think there is.
So are two issues? I mean, if this was a Native people's conference and they were talking about their prison system, is there really an issue here of if you're talking prisons for Hawaiians in Hawaii, do you really have to settle the issue of sovereignty first? Because why should taxpayers in the U.S. look to Hawaiians and say, hey, you need your own prison? Why wouldn't they say, we see that there's injustice here, 60%, it may be higher. Fine, take 80%. 80% can be Hawaiian, but what about the aloha for the other people, the Filipinos and the other people who live in the islands?
Well, that would be what the programs are now offering for everybody, right? We just say that since we're the majority and it's not working with what you already have been offering, and you just compounding it by not changing nothing, you just maybe add more different groups to come up with different names to run different projects. But I'm trying to say that because of the Hawaiians are the most, we're an island, we're not a continent, so we got different statutes here, we got different ways of living, and we do have certain language in the Constitution that addresses us different than the general populace anyway. So we're looking at all of these things on why we would like to take care of ourselves and said, you already have an opportunity, and all the rest of the nationalities in Hawaii, they have organizations, they have concerns. You got all these different groups. I mean, they can go and do the same thing we're doing. But there's more responsibility to taking our lands and the revenue from the lands to run government that you're not giving us special attention, which is what you should do if you're taking these monies like that.
Let me just add a few things. 1778, the only thing that was here was Kanaka Maoli. Kanaka Maoli. There, 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 there. Kanaka Maoli. Then everybody else came. These are the Hawaiians. The United States named these people immigrants or whatever they was. Call them Hawaiians. Call them Native Hawaiians because they were born here. Kanaka Maoli. You don't read in any of the paperwork. You don't read it. Kanaka Maoli. You talk about camouflage. You talk about camouflage. So Congress talks about Native Hawaiians and Hawaiians. No Kanaka Maoli. Article 12, 6 and 7 addresses Kanaka Maoli. That's one. The other one is, any of you haven't been to the play, Kulani's play, over here, go see it. Please go see it. Just what Margaret talked about, is that you can't do this, you can't do that, the law. He said you can't do this. They did it back then. Today is no different. 120 years later, it's no different. We have to make a change. We have to make a change. And we need each other. We need to support. So all these other people that came here, they didn't come to help the Kanaka Maoli. They came here to help themselves. They came here for sugar. Halko is not Halko. Halko is sugar. Halko is sugar. So the big five guys are still here. That's who's running the show. So we, no matter how much legal jargon we have, gotta make changes. Yeah. And why we say Kanaka Maoli only, Hawaiians only, is because when we do good, you're all gonna do good. It's evident. The history shows it. Hawaiians were doing good in 1778. Everybody else came here. They're doing good now. So we get Hawaiians only. And it's evident because we have a small gun. The U.S. got a big gun. You get stupid, they pull that trigger. It don't matter. So this is what we got to open our eyes big, and we got to look this way. We cannot look like this. We got to look wide and go deep. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we have a lot of people here, they fence off their lands, now they fence off the animals. This is food. Yeah, so this is what we're up against, but the wall can either go over it, around it, or under it. And that's us. But we need to address the big picture, yeah? Go see the play. It'll help you with what we're doing. Make up your mind, because the guy with the big gun will prevail. Don't ever think and get in a gun going out the United States. That's wrong. I've been there for 30 years. I know. You don't go against the USA with big gun. The law, you got Eric Holder is there. He's gonna make the difference.
have one of those press statements?
Yeah, and you look, and my third one is the most distasteful thing to do is to ask for monetary support. And all I'm asking is $1 every month. PayPal, you got computer, you have our address, PayPal, dollar a month, you know. But we need that. We have 1,600 names on our Kaya form and it's going up. So these names here that's on there, the Pu'uhonua, there's some familiar names in there, some are family. And those that go to jail, their children are running astray. And that's the way the U.S. does. It keeps you off balance. So we're off balance. And if Papa and Mama's in jail, Grandma's too old to take care of it, the kid's gonna run rampant, and now we're gonna get another statistic.
Did they ever make statistics on the children? Those parents are in prison. Did they ever make that assessment on that?
The assessment I saw was that they just showed 40% of women that didn't have husbands was in jail. And then the children was all vulnerable to go into boys' school.
Did they ever make assessment of the kids in school, on the grades? Because I know when Abby and I went in, the kids were all failing. Yeah. Period. See, the parents, I'm not worrying about them. The state's feeding them. But we better take an assessment on the kids. I mean, I did a security at Cal Elementary School, and damn kids get an attitude. It's my second grader. Couldn't help. Father was in prison. The fact is the kids. So you're right. All these organizations better knock this shit. Come on top of each other, out together. Point the gun to the 4 policymakers, the governor, the 2 senators in the House of Reps, because they're the one bring the voice to Congress. This voice ain't moving out of the state. He's only staying in Hilo, Hawaii, or maybe creeping in Waikiki. That's why, and I agree with you, the organization today, all these trusts, because they get their fat paycheck, they don't want to make noise. Because they will get fired. It's the bottom line. It's all about your fat paycheck. But I'm worried about the kids, you know, I look at the kids, and the kids are failing. So now they create all this charter school and to help the kids. They're not resolving the problem. And you know the kids, if you tell them their parents no good, no, you know they tell me I love my parents. They don't care whether he's a murderer or druggie or not. The one who's getting an effect on all these things, that's why you gotta do this. The statistics is the kids affected. Now can you imagine 2 parents, how many kids are getting affected? At least 10 kids, no? So how many Hawaiians who have children? How much kids are we talking about? If you go to the DOA, you go check all the kids, they're all failing. And they're all following the footstep, they call it the grandfather's curse. We call it the grandfather's curse because the overthrow of the government. Like my grandparents were alcoholics. My father wanted to be a school teacher. Graduated in 1927, I like them Hawaiian. But he couldn't be one because the parents were alcoholics. But fortunately, my father got his act together, no? But not everybody have a happy temper. Outcome. But we need to make a statistics on the kids that the parents are in prison, especially the Hawaiians. Hawaiians are more going to prison. This one robbed, man. The Hawaiian robbed, that's what I mean. I know that, but every night we work with them. When you talk about, and Holder is right, there's a lot of them in there, they shouldn't be there. When NTM and I did the work, we had the 3 things that confused, convinced, and converted them. The one who had children and family were the one who wanted to listen. So they're the one in prison, they shouldn't be there. And you're right, they shouldn't be there, we should get them out. And Gabby went into it, and we were able to talk, said, no, I don't want Kennedy help. You get the converted one, no? Convinced and confused. Convinced and confused, they get a high attitude, hidden agenda. They're not ready, that's the murderers. They ain't ready for it. But they have, majority of them fits in the converted. So when we use that program, the whole Pu'uhonua, it did work. We worked on the youth program, it did work. Now, Aloha worked with me in this project. Now, we never have a happy camper with a family caught in the, I mean, he gave us bad time. That's the bottom line. But you know, this is a Hawaiian program. They don't allow us. But did we get support? And they had to win you out. Because she said, now this is politics. So I had to learn on another thing in life. Not only grassroots, but politics. You know. So last night, you know, you wanted to bring whatever about NTF. I finally contacted David coming down. You just got to make a letter to from Ho'opakele to Alolike. They have all the stats and the data that you can get. And just to make it short, I always converse with her. Yeah, because I live with her. And so I was sitting in the back watching my time. Local come beat me on a fight period. So I thought, hey, I gotta go call in there and forget this stuff. So I talked to her, I told her, Eddie, I forget your number. When she told me to look in the phone book. Means you better get your ass out there and get involved. Yeah. I was more with the church and, you know, so finding out in the community. Well, you're right. All these trusts, all these Hawaiian organizations, they only sitting back. They only get the fat paycheck. All the Hawaiians that stack on each other. But sadly to say, if we get good results, what I see in the community, I see good people coming in, good leaders coming in. But they see all the scenarios. My parents were all, what they call that, they walk down with the sign. But now the Hawaiians smart enough to take them caught now. Finally, they're educated now. Demonstrations don't work. My mama guys was fighting Kyoka when they wanted to bring the cis school. They wanted to put the industry to Kyoka and kick Kyoka out. Kyokaha was one solid rock, volcanic rock. My grandparents went there and camped by Pu'uhonua Bay and waited for Hawaiian homes to give them, and they gave Hawaiians these flat, ugly lava rock. The Hawaiians were put it together. So I understand, I hear you, I'm here. Yeah, so I told finally David, everything will fall into place this week. Amazing era. And everything will fall. So I know we will lose the war, but I think we lose the battle, but we win the war. Yeah, so I agree. As NTIB said, now we gotta get this going. We gotta get all this organization, gotta make letter, they better come in. Yeah. Because this is affecting their families that they serve. All of the children and family, whether it's QLCC, Kamehameha, everyone had uncles and aunties are involved in that. And what's happening, the children of those who are being incarcerated are the worst getting infected. Are you seeing the picture of what's going to happen? I tell you the truth, I'm only living this life 10 years, I only get out of here. Can you imagine the mentality? Yeah. We can see it in the jobs today. The kids don't like work. Yeah, they don't want to work. And now the companies today, they make one survey. Amazing, the survey. When you fill out the thing, they know you're going to be the guy and they're going to stay there for 5 years. When they made survey, they found a lot of this generation, 1-2 years, they're going out. You know, because you look at that, it goes right back to the family. Yeah. What are we talking about? I hear you, you're talking about the family. Our kids, our grandkids. Yeah. And everybody is just sitting pretty and don't want to get involved. Yeah. You know, my church don't agree with that, but it's my church. Yeah. I'm all with it. But I'm here because Auntie wanted this to move. Before she passed away, she was helping people in the hospital. Can you imagine? She was serious like you. You're serious. Yeah, I know that. You need serious people to do this work. When they're serious, they will be committed. And Auntie Abby, even in her dying time, that morning she was helping people. She wanted this thing to work. And then I told her, hey, I'm down KTA, I will buy I'll fry for her, bring them over. And then she told me she would take a bath. Stupid of them. I go hard. They go out before they go. I never think. I ran down the supermarket and I fried the fish, I come out. She was gone. And she fought all the way. Yeah. So Auntie Abby, her goal is for the Hawaiian kids. She don't care what kids. Not only Hawaiian. She says all kids come here beside what I do. She doesn't care who she wants to serve. Thank you.
What Howard is saying, when he and Auntie Abby were in the Aloliki program, they cut down the recidivism down to 3%. And I'm saying, wow, if we have the statistics to show and people can look at it, how can they say it's not going to work,
The
right?
house was 60% and brought down to 3.5%. When we ran the youth offenders project, it was 45% recidivism rate, it was 3%.
You know, when they, I think OHA had a summit on Wainuinui, who was there last year, about the crime, about Hawaiian prisoners and things. A lot of people attended. And the people on the panel were ex-judges that used to sentence people to jail and then realize, because he married a Hawaiian, now he's not paying attention to how many Hawaiians have been sent to jail in his whole term. And being a minority in the society and being a majority being sentenced to jail, I mean, not too many judges going to ask, oh, wait a minute, why am I all my years sending Hawaiians more than any other race? A lot of them don't pay attention to that. They just do their job. He brought it up to his attention. Well, the people in the audience at that time, they asked why we were so-called always going to jail or in front of the judge. And I can say that I asked the people in the audience, how many of you folks been locked up? And all the hands went up, and they were there all there to give testimony about their experiences or their programs that they were in or whatever. But people in the audience all raised their hand up, so they were giving testimony. The people giving testimony are the ones that did the time. So they was expressing their, I guess, ideas, their things they're involved with. But the point was this: raise your hand, all of those who've been locked up, and all the hands went up. Then I go, okay, raise your hands if you never go Kamehameha school. And all the hands go up. So it just shows you that all the Hawaiians that went to Kamehameha school never got locked up. Okay? So what is it telling me? That Kamehameha school, what you do for not the Hawaiians, what do you do for all the Hawaiians then? Why are you sitting there and saying that all the ones that went to public school all in jail and all the Hawaiians that went to Kamehameha school didn't go to jail? So it's an answer to your question about our kids. You know, you can see that if they all had fair treatment, like every other child who goes to Kamehameha schools from kindergarten to graduation, you probably won't have that many in jail.
Well, for the point, when we helped the youth, when we had the youth offenders came in, we never called them offenders. When they came into the program, oh, I never sit up. I'm a big guy. I used to be 290. I'm 240. And with my voice, oh, like the dogs run on. I had my grandfather. My grandfather was John Kahala, Kalei Manuia. He was one of Queen Ilokalani at the time. He was a 10-kid my grandfather. He's one kid. So my grandfather was one of the. So I had his voice. He's a Manuia from Lahaina. They hate Kamehameha. They shot people. with this kind of boy. But when we had the kids, I had Auntie Abby and Aloha. You know Auntie Abby, she's there for the appeal for the children. She don't care about adults, because adults still get the issues. But the youth get fresh. We never intimidated them. And I knew they never had money. I knew that. I eyeballed it for the change their. And the girls, I guess the mothers don't teach oral hygiene, man. So all of folks used to teach the girls oral hygiene. Can you imagine that? So I told Aloha, hey, let's go check the girls, make sure you teach them oral hygiene. Gotta wash up into all that, you don't know that. So Aloha folks did that. We never did intimidate them. Because the kids already went through the system. I told Judge Gaddis, you get the easy part. Oh, what you mean, Mr. Pierre? You hit that gravel, and that child has to go through all this service. It's like going to a slaughterhouse. And we knew that. So we didn't talk about what's supposed to help him. All I knew, you got to put money in his pocket right along. I knew that. He took our boy. So we put them in a vocate program. Put clothes on, make sure all our guys go see us right along, buy them clothes. And then I made them work in a vocate program. And they earned $1,043 meaning $200. But they weren't ready to go into the real employment. They still had the attitude. They would call them grandfather's case. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. So we made them go work so that they can be looked at. They can earn the money. Did they earn the 1,000? Yes, they earned them. We made sure they had a checkbook, right? Until Lord, we taught them how to write a check. We talk about these kids don't know nothing. Yeah, they never had the opportunity. Out of our 350 kids we had, 265 graduated. And out of the 350, 10 went prison. 5 went state prison, 5 went federal prison. All the other rest we get the GED. Yeah, we made sure everyone graduated. Yeah, the kids, you got to put money in their pocket. When they were ready to go to the employment, then we allowed them. So they had to work for Uncle Howard. So I make them clean pit pay. Yeah, I make them do the stinky job. They told me, how are you even doing? I said, well, they even did money. Right along. So Uncle Howard always had the golden age. Yeah, but you got to do this part. If the kids listen, yeah, number one, no more wine, no more oral hygiene. There's a lot of things these kids don't have. We knew that, right along. These kids trust us more. Sometimes the agency, they put the best interest for the agency. They do not put the best interest for the kids. Auntie Abby, she tells us we put the best interest for the kids. I had this girl was in Kamehameha school, McDonald was the principal. McDonald called me, she told me, you better pick up this girl. She's disturbing the whole school. So I'm walking in the hallway and I can hear this French language flying out in the air. I open that door, this girl, she sees me, she stopped. The vice principal and principal there, and she said, good morning, Uncle Howard. She just went F all day, effing there. She went Uncle Howard walking, she said, good morning, Uncle Howard. I looked at her, I said, that's enough. I'll meet you at 3 o'clock this afternoon. You and I need to talk. Yes, Uncle Howard, I won't hear it anymore. Yes, she sits right now. The principal tells me she has more respect for you. You know why? Because I love that girl and I respect her. Yeah, the father was abusing her. Oh, yeah. You talk about the law. They put TRO, it doesn't work. Off the record. You turn that off? Just off the record.